I couldn't get it to do anything different, so we'll have to we'll have to use it this way. Just let me do this.
I mean, I don't get a chance to see your lovely face. Now that makes me feel sad.
Okay, hang on a sec. All right. Okay, are you good?
So far.
All right.
I don't get a chance to see your lovely face.
I know, but that's all right. You're infinitely cuter than I am, so.
I like that word cute. That means that I'm gonna have to be on my P's. People only get to see me, they don't get to see.
No, you don't have to worry. All right, let me okay, so you said you made notes on some talking points.
Yeah, I did, and I thought that you might want me to go ahead and introduce me right quick so people know. Well, you said that the other day.
Yeah, okay, so
some people know me.
Right, let me just explain to the crowd that I'll read what I wrote here. Let me just get it. Actually, I can do it kind of from memory. The first time that you came onto the program, which was, I think it was like episode 16 or something, and we are now on episode number 66. So the first time that you came on, yeah, it was because you and I had a conversation, and you had commented that it would be good for me to talk with first and second generation people. And that's how we ended up talking last year, I think it was. The idea for this new dialogue with the Death Master, that came about because you know, we talk every once in a while, and the topic of false prophets in Jeet Kune Do came up.
That's right.
Yeah,
I do remember.
And so, everyone, welcome to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode number 66 with Michael Marcellus Brown, the Death Master. And we thought we would just get on the horn, put some video cameras on, even though my camera's not working up to speed, and see what comes up. So you're on record, Mr. Brown, talking about the issue of certification. And you don't hand out any type of certification yourself, correct?
I have one person that I have given permission to teach what he knows. But as far as certification is concerned, I'm very apprehensive about just giving people credentials and let them do what they want to do, express what they want to express when they possibly haven't spent enough time with the material. So to answer that question easily is to say, no, I do not give out teaching grandmaster, master, whatever type of certification. I don't do that. However, that may change soon. I do have something that's planned that I was going to get all of my people together, all 20 of them that are private students, and do a little something, give some certificates and a few things away. Yeah.
Right. Well, what would you say then are legitimate reasons that you can think of that a person should have for wanting certification?
Legitimate reasons?
Yeah.
Not everyone is let's use the word, not everyone is a teacher. A lot of people, when you were initially starting out, like a lot of the first generation students, majority of those individuals were judokas and fighters. They weren't studying it to teach. Yeah. And teaching is really a craft. You know that. It's an art that expresses itself differently. Just because you know something doesn't necessarily mean you can guide or teach other people how to do what you do. And so what happens is it gets kind of watered down. So I'm a little apprehensive about that aspect of it. A person would probably want to be certified to further their personal agenda, maybe legitimize themselves in the company of other people, school, to be able to produce DVDs, merchandise, shirts, do seminars. And
Right.
so if that piece of paper comes with a certain level of authenticity, or should I say, you can push the point that, hey, I'm legitimate. I have a certificate that says I'm a associate instructor or apprentice instructor.
Yeah.
You remember that Guru Dan had initially was waiting, I think it was 5 years before he would even look at anybody for that instructor's program?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's still the same way. I'm fairly sure it's still the same way.
Oh, after 5 years, then you would get into that program, or you were allowed into that program, and so that went from apprentice instructor to assistant instructor to associate, then full instructor, and the last, if I remember, was senior instructor.
Yeah.
And
Senior full.
Senior full. So in between each of those is like between, I want to say 7 to 10 years, and that was just to be sure about the quality of the instructors.
Right.
That's why, because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you can teach it or guide other individuals to the objective truth as it pertains to Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah. But one of the things that I'm fairly sure has happened is that there are people who, in an effort to spread their own gospel, have given out pieces of paper to people who are not yet qualified. You see?
Yeah, I see that, and but then you can also say that there's some people who have watched it in the movies or read all of the books. Now they can spout off and regurgitate sayings and everything like that.
Yeah.
But that, and they can fool, and they do fool a lot of people. The people who are unknowledgeable or who just, they don't have the information to realize that this person may be shining them on or throwing snake oil at them.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that I sit here and I think, well, you know, we've been doing this for so long. We've been talking about it for so long. The word must be out there. But I recently had a question sent to me, and it asked if Bruce, actually there's two I'll tell you about. One person asked if Bruce Lee, well, it was something like, what Bruce Lee movie is he famous for saying boards don't hit back? Right? Somebody actually asked me that. And then just today, have you ever heard of something called the Bong Sau Kempo gloves? Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay, so
not Bong Sau
yes,
gloves.
the Bong Sau Kempo gloves. That's what they call now the gloves from Enter the Dragon.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
They're now called the Bong Sau Kempo gloves. There's a company called Shihan that's making them.
So the original ones were the ones that the Japanese police used, and they were modified. And then I think several of the companies, including Century and a couple of others, were selling it, but they were just calling them Kempo gloves.
Right. And now, do you have any information on how that happened? Why they were called Kempo gloves? Did that have to do with Sifu and Asano's background in Kempo, or did somebody hear that it was Japanese baton training and they figured, oh, well, that must be kendo, but they got confused? Do you have any information on that?
No, but I do have a pair of the Kim Po gloves.
I have two of them in storage somewhere.
That's the truth. And they were used, Guru, what's his name? Reuben Griffin used to fight in them, as a matter of fact.
Oh my God, really?
He had several pair. I mean, you talk about the MMA gloves being, you hit somebody with that 4-ounce glove, it's going to hurt. Well, those Kempo gloves, they would well, it allowed you to grab. And yes, they were from the Japanese baton training term. The name has been lost in antiquity of where that, or was it Kendo glove?
Yeah.
So I don't have really any information on that particular thing. I do know that they were very popular. They were the predecessor to the current MMA gloves that are out there.
Well,
a lot bigger, a lot bigger, and they also allowed for you to grab, and things were pretty much protected. And we used to use them a little bit with the stick sparring that we used to do a long time ago.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, I mean, they went from hockey gloves to something that you could manipulate the wrist a lot easier with.
Yeah.
But you and I had talked about, and I hope you, about the certification and why someone would pursue that certification. And what happens, I think, now, as I said, a lot of those individuals who what I call a false prophet, they are out there to sell their books, and they have written books, and they have DVDs, and they're selling DVDs, and they have merchandise out there that they're doing, but they have branded their name. And in the process, they also do seminars, and some of them have found their way into consulting, whether it's MMA or whether it's in law enforcement.
Right.
And then it's like that whole mess in India, which had to do with one person is a grandmaster, and I remember someone wanted me to certify him as a grandmaster, and he was going to send me money because another instructor who was out there pushing instructorship to boost his brand had certified someone else there in India. Yeah. So my whole thing with that was buyer beware. I mean, because if it can be bought and paid for, then there are people out there who want to buy it and pay for it and claim lineage to it. Yeah. And that's what that, but you know, that whole thing is back in the day, and this is just true about to me, the lifeblood of JKD was always in the sparring. It was always in the sparring. And literally, you would beat one another up almost. Right. But today, it is different. And so there's just many different influences. But the people who are pushing, the ones that I know of, and it comes to my attention all the time, the ones that are pushing that, those individuals they haven't spent time with the material. They haven't spent time, meaning that they haven't trained under a guide, let's say a Jedi Master. They haven't trained under a guide over an extended period of time on that material. Right. What happens is that I think depending on when you came in, you got the, I'll use the term smorgasbord, which is pretty big, but you got that material, the JKD mix and match, where some people came in and they did more of the Kali or the Silat or the Muay Thai or the Spot or the Bando, depending on, or the mix of those. Yeah. And so when they came in, they didn't spend, meaning those individuals didn't spend a whole lot of time on the fundamentals. I call it the foundations, the fundamental foundations. Right. You have to have that if you are teaching Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Okay, but let's talk about that for a second, right? So somebody comes in and they start to partake of the smorgasbord. Now, whose fault is it if they end up thinking that this smorgasbord is what is Jeet Kune Do? Who do we hold responsible for that? Anybody?
yes, absolutely. That's that individual. That's that individual who subjectively thinks that that's Jeet Kune Do. I mean, you see that all over the place with people who have trained in karate and taekwondo, and it's like they're now with the current MMA field, everybody mixes and matches. So if you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you're effective, then okay, well, I got
So
my
that's,
that.
so that's why there are people who think then that Jeet Kune Do is one of those mixed martial arts.
There's some people who do.
Yeah.
There are some individuals who, you see, again, this comes back to what I said about the core material or the fundamental foundation that you have to have.
Yeah.
I know that you're not going to get a senior full or senior instructorship under Guru Dan unless you know the terminology. Now, maybe some of those first generation students back in the day, maybe they didn't know the full terminology. Maybe they just said slapping hands or grabbing hands.
Yeah.
But today, you know, you have to know it's Pak Sao and not Pong Tao, or instead of Lok Sao, I hear all the time Luke Su. It's not Luke Su, it's Lok Sao. And these are those individuals who are reading the books and are kind of making it up on their own, and they are prophets, and they're the ones who, because of a magnetic personality, so to speak, they have followers, and those individuals who are following them are blind to the fact that these people don't have I question, I shouldn't say don't have, I question the legitimacy of what they do, especially as it pertains to Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah. I find it funny, right? Because if I said to you, well, Michael, I trained with Dan Inosanto in the period 1982 to 83, right? That could be that I trained with him the last week of the year 1982 and the first week of the year 1983. So I really only spent 2 weeks with Dan Inosanto at a holiday camp. But then I go out and I tell the world that I spent time training with Inosanto in the period 1982 to 83.
Yeah, that's what happens, and I guess the thing is, there are a lot of, and I use the word false prophets to designate those individuals who are looking for sheep in order to herd, or those individuals who are trying to push their own ego. I have 70 students or 90 students, or I have 3 schools, or I have several masters that I have made masters, and I can travel to this location or that location. Yeah. Well, those guys, and I won't just say guys, but there are people out there that may have good intentions, okay? But see, there's a difference between being a student and a fighter and a teacher. We are all students. I am still a student. I constantly go back over that material that I started back in '72. Yeah. And I drill it, and it's an endless process. But a lot of the people that are out there didn't put the gloves on, and I call them intellectual JKDs. They can cerebralize and they can intellectualize. I'm not sure that cerebralization is a word.
Okay. It is now.
But they can talk the talk. But walking the walk is different. Ruben and I used to always say, the proof is in the pudding. I love that new phrase out there. You can't fake steak. Yeah. You put the gloves on, or when you match hands, you realize real quick whether or not they know what they profess to know or not, against somebody who knows what they're doing. Mm-hmm. If you're a black belt in, let's say, BJJ, and someone claims that they're a black belt in BJJ, okay, and they come into your school, you get down on the mat, and as soon as you touch one another,
Right.
you know that whether they are or not, what they claim to be. Well, I think the same thing holds true with people who went through the process of, they didn't, I call it cliff note the material. They actually got down and dirty. I've had a busted nose. I've had a bloody lip. But they actually, you know, that was always the litmus test back in the day with Steve Larry Hartsell. I know it was. I was there. You ask Mike and Bob Moore or Tony Gore, who were my seniors, Mike and Bob Moore and Tony Gore, and they'll tell you, we gloves on, we kicked, and we sparred it heavily. And this was 72, 73 back in those days. When you were hitting one another, it wasn't with a time limit. There was no ding ding, okay, round over.
Yeah.
I mean, you were going at it. And that's why when I see the people who aren't willing, now remember, they say after 60, you say 60 something. Well, I'm 60 something, but I have no problem, you know, if someone wants to get down on the mat and they want to check out my grappling skills, come on. Yeah. And the same thing, you want to call it club up,
right.
No problem.
Okay, so if somebody visits somebody else's school and says, yes, I am a certified instructor, I'm an associate instructor under whomever, what then should be the equivalent, like you just said, if it happened in BJJ and two people get on the mat, they can immediately feel whether or not this other guy is a legitimate black belt. What would you say then could be the testing samples in the JKD world? If somebody shows up at somebody else's place and says, I'm legitimate, I'm certified, what should we be able to feel or sense or see?
Well, a lot of that, you know, and you could say that a lot of that has to do with, you say, the sense or feel. If a person comes into, let's say, the Princeton Martial Arts School, all right, and they say that they have been trained in Jeet Kune Do, and they do Jeet Kune Do. Now, they don't say Kali or Muay Thai or Savate. I've been doing Jeet Kune Do for 10 years, okay? Right. Well, there's a certain thing. They have, first, okay, it's nice to know that, and if you want to bring that certificate with you, okay, fine, which you can buy or which you can create on your own. And I mean, it's kind of hard to forge Larry Hartsell or Guru Dance signature, but it can be done. But then when you walk in there, if you don't know the terminology, and that's the first thing. Right now, Ruben is, when he goes out to California, he trains at the Ano Academy. Ruben is working on getting that last certificate. You know, he's working on getting that senior full instructorship. Yeah. But for him to be able to do that, he has to know the material, and he has to know like from Ping Choi to Gua Choi to what Now Tech is. He has to know what these things are. Where at one point in time, you know, we may have called it a hook kick or a side kick or but you have to know the material. So if a person doesn't know what hot style is or lock style or running hands, then that's an easy giveaway. And if they get in, and then if they don't have the pliability in their feet, meaning that they're dancing around like they've seen Bruce Lee in Game of Death, yeah, or in again, that's theatrical martial arts, when he's doing that against Bob Wall in Into the Dragon, or when he's in, I forgot the Baker, I think the guy was in Chinese Connection. Yeah, he's dancing around. If they think that, so when you see them doing that, then you realize that person doesn't have a clue. If their hands are down by their waist and they're flashing and making little sounds, whoop, 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 ah, then you automatically know that person doesn't have a clue. Yeah. They don't have a clue. Yeah. And so then it is incumbent upon the person who is there to say, you know, in a very respectful way, I would appreciate, you know, I don't see what you see. I question the authenticity of your skill sets. And if you were to spar, and some of them want to spar, but as soon as they get hit, as soon as a blue belt chokes out a black belt in BJJ, you know that person doesn't know what they're doing. They don't. A supposed black belt. I'm a third-degree black belt in BJJ, and a white belt chokes you out. I mean, there's a problem there. So when they get hit, when they get kneed and kicked, bad things happen. Now there are lawsuits and a bunch of other stuff that can happen from that. So it's good to investigate and then avoid those individuals. But if they come into the school, then, you know, and you don't really know, then you can tell by the way they walk, the way that they interact with other students. Are they an island unto themselves? Are they willing to share information and help other people? Or is it all about the, in this day and age, the I, me thing instead of the us, we thing? So that's
what is that then? Is that a built-in issue then, because of the lack of, what do you call it? Standardization? No, yeah, well, yeah, that too. But because there is no standardized approach, that's part of the problem.
I was thinking that at one point in time.
Yeah. But you changed your mind?
Well, I don't know that I don't know that that's the issue. See, you have to understand that the art, okay, isn't for the many, but the art really is for the few. And when I say it's not, it's like the few, the proud, the Marines. Jeet Kune Do, in essence, for everybody, because everybody isn't going to have the work ethic. They're not going to put the time in, yet they want the acclimates that come with that. They want the pat on the back. They want the praise. They want to see themselves as being in the movies, or they want to see them without having doing the work. You want the A without studying.
Yeah.
That's the effort that you yourself as an individual, you have to put that in. So when I say that, you know, that there's so many people out there that are going through this me, I, they are not putting the time in with the material. Now, they may want to spend more time with the C-Lot, or they may want to spend more time with the MMA, or they may want to spend more time, I want to get a silver glove, and so I'm going to do La Basta Francesa Sabat. But that's not, to me, that's not the same. You have to put the time in with the material. And I mean, if there's one big issue, there's a lot of people out there claiming that they're this and that, but they don't know the material because they didn't put the time in to study it, whether it was 2 years or 3 years. Yeah. You have to, so it's a continued evolution of a martial artist. The cultivation of a martial artist is a continued evolution. Now, when we talk about Jeet Kune Do, how many people are willing to go back and, I mean, especially with the availability of YouTube, you can go on YouTube and pull up stuff, seminars, or you can see people who are now passed on, from people Larry Hartsell to people Jerry Petit, and you can see, and you can even Tommy Carruthers, you know, who, you know, and Tommy Carruthers is very good at what he does, but it's an individual's journey, right. And that individual has pushed himself and tested his limitations and did his research. There's so many people who they don't even do the research, they don't even push themselves, yet they want that A. You know, I want that A, I want that certificate so that I can say I have it. And a lot of times it just hangs on the wall. But just because you have that doesn't mean you can do that. And that wasn't to be disparaging against Tommy Carruthers. He's on my Facebook page. I want to say that as a martial artist, he continues to evolve himself as a martial artist.
Yeah.
Okay? So,
you know, he's well, he next year he can say he's 60 something.
Wow. Hey.
Yeah. Next year he can say 60 something. Actually, the last time he and I spoke, which was about 2 weeks ago, I think, the topic of like standardization came up within the realm of with something that you and I have spoken about, the organizations of Jeet Kune Do. So like the Jeet Kune Do Society from the old days, and then the Jeet Kune Do nucleus, right? So I wanted to ask you about that. Do you have any thoughts on what they did right, and maybe even if they did anything wrong? Because they didn't last. I forget what period of time for the JKD Society, and I believe the Jeet Kune Do nucleus was what, about 6 years or so? I don't even remember. Do you have any thoughts on that, what they did right and whether or not they even did anything wrong?
You know, JKD has always suffered, I guess, from what one of my friends calls an identity crisis.
Yeah, I know what friend that is.
You know. Okay. And I guess because there really isn't any universal, okay, accepted definition of what Jeet Kune Do is, because it's going to be different for different people. And I understand that. I really do.
Is that right? Is that actually true? Or is that a myth under which we have labored for decades?
That's not a myth. People are going. I remember Guru Dan saying that people will, and he said this in my presence. I've also heard him say it on a few DVDs that are out there too. People, according to how they were trained, their likes and dislikes, okay, will express JKD differently. Ruben and I get out. Let's take three people, okay. Ruben Griffin, okay, one of Larry Hartsell's top people. Dick Carroll, one of Chai and Alpha Dan's top people, and then Larry Hartsell too, and myself. We all drink water from the same well. We all got our source material, okay, that was fundamentals from Larry Hartsell.
Yes.
And yet, because of our attributes, our likes and dislikes, we all three express it entirely different. Entirely different. You know, Chris is fond of, when he looks at this area back in the day when he came here and trained for a little bit, or helped the people that were here at that time at the old Kung Fu Society, he looked at this area as the kickboxing, okay? Because Larry Hartsell at one time was a kicker. Like, he was very good with his kicking.
Yeah.
But outside of California and Oakland, the school here in Charlotte was the only place that you could learn Bruce Lee's martial art, because Guru Dan had given the permission to Larry Hartsell to basically teach and have a small group of individuals. Now, when I came in to that, you had to be voted into the class. You just didn't walk in the door.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there was another methodology that was being taught at the Kung Fu Society, several of them. But you had to be voted into that class.
Can I ask you this? Was Larry Hartsell given permission to call it Jeet Kune Do and to use Bruce Lee's name?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was going to say, if you want to know how I know, because he told me so. And I remember when Guru or Sifu Dan came here, because he would come here on his own dime to upgrade us, upgrade Larry particularly, because Larry was way out here in Never Never Land and was way away from the source, from the Richard Bastillos and Danny Lees and everybody who were his Ted Wong's, Ted Lucky Lakai. So it's interesting that for Larry's evolution with the way in which he taught was very matter of fact. It was not watered down. I mean, you came to class, you might leave with a swollen eye or a leg that's been kicked, or you learn real quick to protect yourself. But that was the reality, or should I call it objective truth, of Jeet Kune Do. Now, earlier what you were saying, when I said that there is no accepted, universal definition by everybody looks at it differently because of how they were raised. Dickie teaches JKD entirely different than I do. Ruben teaches it entirely different. And remember now, Ruben goes to California whenever he can, so that he can continue to get upgraded, because he's in pursuit of that next level of certification from Guru Dan.
Right.
Now, he also wants to be a martial artist, but he has the availability, so it doesn't make sense for him to go to California and not step in on a class from Tim Tackett, that Wednesday night crowd, or not go to the Center Academy, or any of the people. If he's up in Seattle, absolutely he's going to step in there and continue to upgrade himself with the Jung Fan material, because, see, I said this earlier, and you've heard this too, you can have Jung Fan without JKD, but you can't have JKD without the Jung Fan Kung Fu material. So that source material, and again, I'm quoting, but that source material is a must for you to evolve into your own personal experience of what Jeet Kune Do is. So it's going to be different. It really is going to be different for different people. Some people now, I mean, if you look across the board, a lot of people are playing with the BJJ. A lot of people are playing with the catch wrestling.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going back to traditional martial arts. See those swords behind me there? You know, we go back and we look at things because there's something that's there. Some people love the sila, and they mix and they match. But if you mix and you match without having spent quality time in one arena, if you're going to make a bow in a kyodo, okay, that's traditional Japanese bow and arrow, okay, if you're going to be, you have to apprentice like 10 years before you even start to make a bow. It would make sense that Guru Dan would have those 8 to 10 year periods in between each certification for that person to spend time with the material. It was never about turning out fighters like Bruce Lee, because a lot of people don't have his skill sets or his attributes. Yeah. A lot of people will never have that. I talked to one of my friends who does ninjutsu, and he's directly under Stephen Hayes and Master Hatsumi. Okay, he teaches up at the Boston Martial Arts Center. Easy story. For him, he spends time with that material, okay, and he has to. But a lot of people, you know, I asked him, I said, how do you know whether someone is legitimate or not? Because he said everybody has that problem. Everybody expresses ninjutsu differently, but he has the lineage. So Kumura has the lineage. James Lee had the lineage. Guru Dan had the lineage. Chris Kent has the lineage. Jeff Amata has the lineage. Dick Harrell has the lineage. Anybody who trained with those 3 people and spent time. Now, just because you spent time, as I said, it didn't mean that they gave you a certificate. I've got a certificate that says Michael Brown is authorized to instruct and teach Jeet Kune Do, and that's under Larry Hartsell. Yeah. But just because you went through the program, a lot of people went through the school here in Charlotte, but how many people graduated from that school? 3. Okay. 3. Okay. Mike and Bob. That's what I mean when I say that. Yeah.
All right. Let me devil's advocate a little bit here, because I'm still a little bit perturbed with the idea that it won't be that everybody's gonna end up doing their thing differently, right? But here's the thing: Dickie Harrell, Reuben Griffith, and you were all in the classroom at the same time, getting the same material. So yes, you were 3 separate individuals. So yes, your method of expressing yourselves is going to be different. But how far down a rabbit hole can this thing go? Let's pick on Dickie Harrell a little bit. Can Dickie Harrell decide that he's gonna add snake and crane kung fu to his Jeet Kune Do and still be considered legitimate Jeet Kune Do? He'll kill me when he hears this, but
don't want to get on Richard's bad side. Want to mess with Richard Harrell. Mr. Muay Thai.
No, hey, I know I almost bowed down and worshipped him the first time I met him live because he's a childhood hero of mine. My God.
I used to, I used to train with Dickie all the time.
Yeah.
But my heroes were Mike and Bob Moore, Tony Gore, and Joe Goodnight before Dickie came into the school.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and then when Dickie and I were training partners, there are a bunch of pictures out there of Dickie, myself, and Guru Dan, and also people Larry Hartsell.
Right.
We spent an inordinate amount of time together. I consider him a brother and a friend. But let me see if I can touch base on that for just a second, all right?
Yeah.
I don't know that he would add snake oil or a white lotus gung fu to his Jeet Kune Do. Oh, and remember now, it's his expression of Jeet Kune Do, so if he chose to do that, but look at what Eric Paulson has done, okay? Eric has added a lot of the catch-as-catch-can, along with the Dumag, along with the BJJ, to his expression of combat, which is his own personal Jeet Kune Do. Now, does he still know the source material? Yes. Does he know the fundamental foundation material? Yes. Yeah. But how does he express what he does? Because he is somebody who's extremely well versed on the ground. He also fought there in the shoot boxing. He's a student of Yuri's. So for Dickie or for Ruben, let's say Ruben has always been JKD. I mean, he can play with the stick, but he does the stick, and his knife is more what you would see. It's more expressed in a Jeet Kune Do format. Okay. Yeah. He didn't spend. I mean, he spent time with the Muay Thai, but I don't think that Richard would do that because he values the lessons that Guru Dan has shared with him and shared with us all. And again, now Dickie's bringing Guru Dan in here on the 16th to 17th of November. The week before that, Metroline Martial Arts, Ed Stahl, who's one of what's his name? Ron Balicki. Ron Balicki's instructors is bringing in Ron Balicki. So this area is always.
And the weekend before that, the guys in Jacksonville are bringing Dan Inosanto to Jacksonville.
That's what I mean. This area on the East Coast has always been, especially in this area, has been a hotbed for people who have an interest in it.
Yeah.
But remember now, when Guru Dan, and you know this, when Guru Dan teaches a class, now his agenda, he seems to be, and I don't want to speak for Guru Dan, but he pushes the Filipino martial arts. He pushes the silat. And so, and every now and then you'll see, you know, the Jeet Kune Do, because we always say, can it be taught? It can be structured and taught. But if you structure it, it doesn't even, it's going to be different for different people, because if a person starts ninjutsu at 55, how good are they going to be compared to had they started at 20?
Yeah.
Because the attributes. Now I'm 58 and I got arthritis in my elbow and I can't throw the Shriniken a certain way. But when I was 20, I could do that. So it depends on when you came in. So I don't think that Richard would do that. He pushes, right now, he pushes the silat. He pushes, and especially the Muay Thai. He is extremely good, as well as Rob Kelly is also, with the Muay Thai. But if you were to go to right across the road there, who was Michael Price, who was certified under Richard Bustillo, he teaches entirely different. He's here in Charlotte. And then if you go to Ed Stahl, he's spending more time with the BJJ and also what Guru Ron Balicki is sharing with him, which is again more of the Kali and some of the basic fundamental drills. If you go across the street to Mark Kruko, same thing, integrative martial arts. He does a lot of the Kali, but his main thing is BJJ.
Is it a generational thing?
If you're going to make money, okay, now we're talking, if you're going to make money, okay, are you teaching Krav Maga? So you're either teaching Krav Maga, you're either having MMA school with a lot of people, because the UFC is alive and well as for the one championship. You want to see some real knockdown, drag out MMA fights, go to one championship. You can pull it up on YouTube. as well as rising. So if you want to make money, you either, in this arena, you either have a large school or several schools that teach a smorgasbord of different material, okay? And that may be MMA, it may be judo. Judo has a big resurgence now. It may be taekwondo, but you have to keep the bills going, to keep the lights on, to keep the electricity, running, juicing. So you have to merchandise the stuff. You got to put out DVDs. You have to put out books, and that's okay. But to keep the kids are the ones that you need to have youth and kid classes. So one of my friends here is at Sparks Martial Arts, Chris Sparks. Chris Sparks it's well done. He does a lot of variety of different things. Kickboxing is his thing. He was a black belt under Joe Louis. He's a black belt under Superfoot Bill Wallace. But his school is huge. It's huge, and he has a lot of people. And he has a lot of people who will go through that belt ranking system. So again, if you're talking about Muay Thai, a lot of people realize that you have to have that foundation of the toughness, the grittiness of Muay Thai, as well as the grittiness. If you don't have, wrestling. Did you see the fight between Rose Namajunas and the other young lady that was in Brazil this past weekend?
I saw. Yeah. Well, you had clued me in about it, so I took a look at the body slam. I didn't watch the whole fight.
Well, that's all you needed because it was only 2 rounds. Rose just had her way. She is the superior fighter. Her hands are. I mean, you have to have the boxing hands. Okay, her boxing hands were exceptional. She managed the range extremely well. JKD attributes. Okay? Once they got inside, she stalled her off. Okay, for the first time, and she fell down on her back as the other young lady picked her up. She had that Kimura, or what we call a double wrist lock in catch as catch can, and she moved it into an arm bar, and the young lady got out of it. Second round, same maneuver, same thing, but this time the young lady picks her up and drops her on her head. Now some people call that a power bomb or a pile driver. And she was out cold. So on any given day, anything can happen, but you have to have the grappling. And you have to mix it. With JKD, you have to have the footwork. Okay, the mobility. You have to have the HIA. Do you need to have the HIA? If you're teaching it, you should understand PIA. I shouldn't have to tell you what PIA means. Right. I shouldn't have to tell you what ABC is. I shouldn't have to tell you what HIA is. You should know anti-mobilization attack. And if you don't know, and you call yourself a legitimate instructor, you're doing the legacy of Bruce Lee a disservice.
Okay. Let me ask you something similar to what I asked you before. The way that you trained the grappling back in the day. So now I want you to do the 2020 hindsight thing. Right? What was it lacking anything? If you could go back to the 1970s with all of the knowledge, understanding, and experience that you have gained as a 60-something-year-old, what would you do differently? And one thing I know you would do. You wouldn't train it on a cement floor.
That's bad. That's real good. That floor was so cold and so hard. Oh my God. You know what? That's almost as bad as when I went up to see Luthez when he was at Virginia Beach. And it was cold. I had seen cold before, okay? But the mat was cold. And we took a bump on that mat, and I thought my back had broke. I said, Jesus Christ. And this is somebody who knows how to fall. My father had a black belt in judo, it hurt real bad. But to answer your question, I don't want to get off tangent. I want to try to stay focused on the agenda, which is, what was it? Oh yeah, the false prophets, the legitimacy and legacy. I think that's right. You're legitimate. Are you legitimate? Are you a legitimate instructor? Or did you buy your certification?
Yeah. But tell me first about what you would do differently in the grappling.
Now, I wrestled in high school and wrestled in college, so I already had a good foundation of grappling already. It's just that type of grappling that Sifu Larry was doing was totally different, okay?
Okay.
Meaning that, if to give you an example, there is no submission in freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling. There may have been one in Greco a long time ago, but in freestyle wrestling, college and high school, even USA, there is no submission. Okay? Right. BJJ, there is no striking with that gi on. Okay, now they're trying to add it in there, but there isn't. So back in the day, I don't think I missed anything. If I had to do it all over again, I would bring a different mindset. Probably have to work a little bit harder and help Sifu Larry buy some mats, some thick mats, instead of that hard floor over at the Gulf Society. But if you remember well, and I know you remember this, Sifu Larry, when he did things with Bruce Lee, Bruce grabbed him because he was big and he had that size on him. But a lot of things that were taught, a lot of the grappling really wasn't taught, my understanding from Sifu Larry, as well as several other people. It wasn't taught there at the Chinatown school. I mean, it was more individualized with people like Guru Dan and whoever else was there at that time. But most of the stuff that was taught, I mean, I think it's on, what is it? We talked about that gentleman from England, Bob, was it Brennan?
Breen.
He has a video that's out that shows you the Jeet Kune Do grappling, okay, as taught to him by Guru Dan, okay?
Right.
And Guru Dan put I want to say it's Jeet Kune Do Volume 4, okay, that has the Jeet Kune Do grappling, the one with Chris Kent's in there and someone, not Chris Kent, Eric Paulson is in there. But he goes through the pops out to headlock to all of the things that, because Larry, there were only like 39, something like that, techniques originally. I may be wrong on that. I'll have to check my own notes. It might have been 33 grappling techniques, but a lot of those did show things that were from judo, things that were gotten from Wally J as well as Gene LaBelle.
Right.
My grappling continued to evolve from Hiro Matsuda also into Luthez. Luthez is considered one of the greatest wrestlers, a hooker we used to call them back in the day, a person who could really put a hold on you, a shooter like Carl Gotch. He and Carl Gotch were very good friends.
Right. So you're saying that you wouldn't do anything radically different from the way you trained grappling back then. So then today, a modern Jeet Kune Do school, could they not then use that let's call it original approach, or do they have to go to the BJJ approach? What do you say?
Ooh, wow, that's a good one. Well, that's a very good question. The BJJ approach gives you a format by which you are protected because you're not striking on the ground, okay? And again, the wrestling, even the catch-as-catch-can wrestling, the whole idea of tap or wrestle through a hole. See, back in the day, we really didn't wrestle or grapple from lock to lock or hole to hole. When people I hear people, this stuff happens a lot, okay? You know, and that's why I very seldom do public seminars. I have a few that I do, the Greatest Martial Art Campus in Matthews. I'll do a few things. I'll be doing the one in Boston and New York. But because, well, you need to have the Jeet Kune Do lock flow. The what? The Larry Hartsell Jeet Kune Do lock flow. Why are you calling it a Jeet Kune Do lock flow? You know that's a Kali lock. Well, maybe they don't know that that's a Kali. Guru Dan used to do that all the time. He would guillotine, catch that hand, and then work several, maybe 8, 9 different locks. Larry would do the same thing.
Right.
That's not a Jeet Kune Do lock flow. There's no such thing as a Jeet Kune Do lock flow. Now, I might get in trouble with certain people, and I'm not gonna, Mr. Kowalski, I apologize. Let's see who else I need to apologize to. Oh, Cass. Who else? Guru Ron, who else? There's a couple others. But as far as Michael Marcellus Brown is concerned, I never learned a lock flow that was called the Jeet Kune Do lock flow. Now remember, I've been doing this since 72, and it was never called that. Okay, that's from Colleen. You and I both know that's from Colleen. You know that, correct?
Yes, I do.
Give me a pat.
I do.
Thank you very much. Now, what I was going to say to you is that a lot of the people who, with the grappling today, okay, it's safer and it'll help. But look at the people who are very good at BJJ, but are horrible in the MMA arena because they're not used to getting hit. Look at the people that are very good in wrestling. Ben Askren. Ben Askren got this butt handed to him, and I'm a fan of Ben Askren, by Jordan Burroughs. But Jordan, and they both have wrestled before, but that was beat the street. Burroughs is on the way going back to the Olympic trials. But if they had to do MMA, back when Ben Askren gets to hit him, elbow him, knee him, kick him, heaven forbid if they were in, what is that called, one championship where you can do the north-south knee on the ground, that would be bad for Mr. Burroughs. But it gives you a foundation. Sambo, same thing, it gives you a foundation. But if you're not used to getting hit, for me to put you in a lock or a hole, okay, a legitimate lock or a hole, I have to have 2-on-1. I have to have, if it's on a limb, I have to have 2-on-1. Doesn't that leave you with a free hand?
Right.
Okay, well, if you have a free hand, if you just hit me in the eye, or touch me in the eye, or slap me in the groin, those are my favorite techniques. Slap them in the groin. Take Granny some balls to play with, you know, whatever. But, you know, that eye gouge, you know, that changes everything. That slap in the groin, which is a technique we teach the ladies as ladies self-defense, the commitment of your convictions. But that's a whole lot of stuff. So when we talk about grappling per se, we didn't grapple to grapple. I mean, I've heard that said before too. We didn't just wrestle with the technique. Once that lock was on, you tapped. And you tapped quick. And then we would start over. But we wouldn't start from the down position. How did you get to that position? In BJJ, they usually start on the ground. So we would start up. You would have to bridge the gap with a PIA or a double jab to get there, and now you're in that range. So the locks and the grappling were accidental, not necessarily intentional. We'll say it that way. Now, I can go into a lock, but it depends. If I'm locking and going down, I'm trying to hurt someone. When I play with my BJJ friends, okay, during the summer, okay, sometimes I play with them, and I put the gi on, and I know a little bit, and they have their way with me because there is no striking. I can't headbutt them. I can't put my elbow on their throat. I can't pinch them. I can't slap them in the groin. I hit them in the eye. But once they take the kimono off, and they're not, you remember now, I wrestled Division I. I wrestled in high school. I can pretty much have my way. And I have the submissions. From the catch that I got from Luthez and also Hiro Matsuda. And so it's a little, and even Barn Bale. So it's a little different when they don't have that on. And then they want me to show them, how did you do that? You tap me out. Yeah, I tapped you out. It's a variation on a sugar, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt bad. So again, you know, so going back to just to circle around right quick, if we're talking about the grappling in JKD, a lot of people will go into the BJJ or the catch, what they call catch wrestling. It used to be called catch as catch can, and now they just use the term, shorten it, catch wrestling. Billy Robinson worked with Josh Barnett as well as with Eric Paulson to help their grappling, because they're still trying to continue to grow. Sakuraba was one of Billy Robinson's top guys, but Carl Gotch had a top guy called Fujiwara. And Fujiwara is still alive, and he's in Japan. And I'm constantly saying, matter of fact, I was telling Guy Chase that I don't know whether he knows Fujiwara, but if he wanted to upgrade or to get Carl Gotch's original material when he was younger, Fujiwara, if there was ever a black belt that Carl Gotch ever gave out, back in the day, okay, it was Fujiwara. Now, there are other people who trained with him. Inoki trained with him, Shohei Baba, Giant Baba. But the shoot style, the shoot, if you want to see a really good match on YouTube, that looks awful close, okay? Fujiwara versus Joe Malenko. Joe Malenko. And there's no kicking, there's no going off the top rope and elbow drop or any of that. They're going for submission. And it's hard pressing. The guy gets one in a matter of fact, that barbell is one of Barbell's favorite techniques. It's called that Fujiwara armbar. You will tap or that thing will snap. It's,
right.
You know, kind of simple in that regard.
Okay.
So I hope that helps about the grappling. I'm not a big fan of it. I love it. I love watching sumo wrestling. I love watching judo, the ladies judo, and of course I love watching wrestling, freestyle wrestling in particular. But as far as the holding on and the stalling that it takes place on the ground, unless it's no gi, and you look at Marcelo Garcia is one of those guys. I mean, he took Kron to the limit every time, and a lot of the other Gracies, we'll even call him the Gracie Killer along with Sakuraba because he was so good with the BJJ.
Yeah. Okay. So two things, and then I'm going to let you go. When I was talking with Tommy Carruthers, and we talked about, you know, he said something about trying to organize it again, right?
Yeah.
Put yourself in that mindset if you can. You're going to start a Jeet Kune Do organization.
I would never start a Jeet Kune Do.
Okay. All right. So all right. Well, then that kills that. That kills that.
Tell you the reason.
Tell me why.
I would never start a Jeet Kune Do organization because then you're just perpetuating the same stuff. The reason why earlier when we talked about the nucleus and the society and why they didn't last, because you have so many people who are on a board who see Jeet Kune Do differently, who came in at different times, and
there's no way to embrace all that.
Very difficult. Who's going to be head of the organization? Who's going to be head? I mean, now right now, let's say that. So let's create a Jeet Kune Do organization, okay? An organization of just. So who's still alive? Okay, well, we got to have the two people. They're Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee, or Sijo Bruce Lee, certified to teach his method of self-discovery as the top two guys. So that's got to be Taki Kimura, and you have to have Daniel Santo, okay? So you got to have those two there, okay? Right. Everybody else, okay? And I mean everybody else. I don't care who you are, because people who train with James Lee's passed on, so James Lee can't be on that fantasy board, okay? Everybody else falls under that umbrella. They're not going to want to fall under that umbrella, and the reason why is because they're already out there making money on with DVDs and doing seminars themselves. And remember, no one wants to be told that they're wrong, right? Meaning that they didn't spend time with the material, and so guess what? You don't know what you think you know, or what you think you know is subjective, JKD, as opposed to objective. There's a truth that is missing in your training, okay? Yeah. And no one wants to be told that I said that they're wrong, but also that they are. I love that part, that they're wrong. You're wrong, and no one wants to be told what to do. So you're going to have someone to tell them what to do. Look, the genie's out of the bottle. How do you put the genie back in the bottle? Look at it from that perspective. So you see why it would be difficult to have a Jeet Kune Do organization with Grand Poobah.
How about we do this in this fantasy organization? We first get the three eras together, and we agree on what we 100% agree on, and then we start from there. But we first make sure what it is that we all agree on, and then we go. How about that?
that idea, and it's a wonderful concept, but you're always going to have dissension in the ranks. Remember that Luther, for example, Martin Luther broke away from the Catholic Church and founded what? Lutheranism, right?
Yeah.
Say yes. So let's say yes. Okay. You're going to always have people who are not happy with their position on the ladder, so to speak. Okay, and they're going to break away and do their own thing. Now they're going to break away and form their own organization.
But there's no ladder. There's no ladder, or there is a rung on the ladder where these three eras sit. So they are what do you call it? They're co-equal.
Okay.
Right?
I'm following you.
Okay, so they're co-equal. We start there. Let's make sure that we all agree on this, and this, that these are essential components of Jeet Kune Do. And now,
I have a question for you.
And then, go.
What is the most important in your opinion? Okay, you trained for a long time. In your opinion, and this is not a trick question, I'm just curious. Okay. What is the most important ingredient to you, considering in Jeet Kune Do? What's the one thing that should be a foundation? I mean, the whole everything is kind of centers around maybe one thing, or is there one thing that it centers around? Because if we're talking art, we're talking science, then there's something else.
Okay. It is that in your training, in your approach to training, you must approximate the reality of this situation.
What Bert Richardson calls a pressure testing, right?
Similarly, yes. Yes.
All right. Okay. I like that. Now, if I ask myself that same question, okay, the philosophy. Because the philosophy behind it, I remember Guru Dan saying a long time ago, to understand the art, and this is Guru Dan, I mean, I wrote it down someplace, but I may be paraphrasing. To understand the art, you have to understand the history of the art. So it's important for those individuals out there to know the history. You have to know the terminology, okay? To understand the history, you have to understand the culture, you know, as you say, time period, the Oakland crowd, the Chinatown crowd, the Marina Del Rey, or Seattle, okay?
Yeah.
To understand the culture, you have the philosophy of that culture at that time. And then to understand the philosophy, you have to understand the philosopher. So for me, the philosophy of simply to simplify, well, Zen, if you want to say that, is a part of that. Right. The stuff that Bruce borrowed from Krishnamurti that explains the concepts of what he was producing for himself. And also, for me, Joseph Campbell, I love that book, The Power of Myth. And that's what I mean when I say that people, their legitimacy is in question. It's because they won't take the time to take the effort in order to absorb that principle of the philosophy, to me. Right. I mean, but see,
but what you and I just did there was to illustrate that there is the art side or the art approach to Jeet Kune Do, and then there's the philosophical approach to Jeet Kune Do. So now we decide that we both agree on that there is the art and the science, and maybe even there is the art and the philosophy, and maybe even the science. So we make sure that we agree on that, and now we continue building.
I think that it would be difficult now, as I said earlier about putting the genie back in the bottle. Okay. I think it would be difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying that
I just like to flog my horse.
And you can flog it, you know. I mean, this is a spoiler alert. You ready? Spoiler alert. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Violence. He chose violence. I was rooting for her.
No,
But
the best thing about Game of Thrones, from what I've heard, is that I guess last week's episode, they were using double stick or double sword in it. That's like the best thing about Game of Thrones.
Well, it's like comic books. You're either into comic books or you're not. You either remember now. Avengers: Infinity Gauntlet may be the #1 movie of all time, beating Titanic and beating this other one out there. But let me go back for a second, okay?
Yeah.
When I say about you can't put the genie back in the bottle, I'll say it that way, okay?
Yeah.
When I said that earlier, I always go back to that man in the mirror thing. Michael Jackson's song, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make that change. See, JKD is an individual art. When I say it's for the individual, that's why a lot of people aren't going to. You understand that?
Yeah.
That they're not going to invest the time and the effort to make it work. Now, if we all got together and we had, that all-in effort, and remember that we're talking about problem solving and things like, that critical thinking, which makes JKD it, because those are the requirements that you have to have. Most people don't, the people that I see want, I call it the microwave stuff, okay? Yeah. They don't want to go out and learn how to, and this is just an example, not to say that they don't, they choose not to. They choose not to want to go out and learn how to track, then create a snare. Now you have to wait and you have to catch it. Then you have to kill it. Yeah. Then you have to skin it. Then you can cook it. Then you can eat it. They would rather go to Burger King and have it their way. And you can't get a letter grade from or a certificate or Grandmaster Poobah from Michael Brown without going through the material, without being able to spend time with it. If you don't spend time with it, you're only going to be so good. I mean, take something else and call it what you want to call it. Do taekwondo, and not disparaging taekwondo, but do another form of martial art if you choose to. But to be JKD, I remember that you either understand or you don't. JKD is JKD. It is something that you have to be all in. Right. If anything half done, ain't done. So you have to be all in, and that means you have to train everything. And most people, by today's standard, because they have so many things that they can train, they don't spend enough time on the fundamentals. Right. If I have a stick, if I have one of my things that I just cannot abide by, is that a person doesn't spend time on the material. Oh, I got it. And okay, show me something new. Show me something I haven't seen. Right. Well, have you mastered that? I mean, do you think you have mastered Bong Sau? Now, when I say mastered, what have you yourself truly mastered? I can tell you, writing your name, okay, and tying your shoe, okay? Now, if you have a stroke, you can't do either of those things, okay? Mm-hmm. So again, it just depends, but most people don't want to put the time in, and if they don't put the time in, their JKD is not going to be as good, or even half as good, or even 10% as good as, let's say, Tim Tackett, or any of the people that he teaches, or Andy Kimura, or any of the people that he and his father teach, or Guru Dan and anybody that he's ever made a full or senior instructor, or Chris Kent, same thing, because they won't put the time in. Right. And that's one of the sad things about it. That is why JKD, what I see out there, what people are calling JKD, is the smorgasbord, watered down snake oil that's being passed around as legit. Right. And it's not really legit. It's subjective truth. Yeah. But it's not objective truth. Okay. I can tell the difference.
Interestingly enough, that's where we started. So let's wrap it up at that same point, and let's make sure that we understand this. Dickie Harrell does not use snake and crane kung fu in his Jeet Kune Do, okay?
You might want to talk to Richard Harrell. Richard Harrell. You might want to talk. Let me get back in picture. Oh, there we are. You might want to talk to
listen.
Vicky's not going to break my leg with I'm not going to be there. Why do you think I don't go over there? I'm afraid I'm going to get beat up.
All right. Well, look, thanks very much for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
A question for you before you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get this book?
I do not have that one. I do have the 48.
It's called War.
Right. I have the 48 Laws of Power.
This is the 33 Strategies of War. Okay. Now,
Okay.
I'm not pushing that book because I don't get a dime for it. But my name isn't, they're not cutting me a check. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a very good book, and it's one of those things. Once you pick it up, you just open it up. More like the Tao, a concept book.
Exactly.
Where you open it up.
Yeah.
Right there and go. But it's just something that I think you can enjoy. Hey, and also let me thank you for. I'm an exclusive. They call it high cotton. That's what high cotton. I'm an exclusive thing here. I mean, Chris Kent's been on twice. I've been on twice. I'm like, man, do I not feel the love? That's why I wore my blue shirt and got my hair fixed all night.
Yeah, yeah, I noticed. A
little pin on right there, you know, so I can look good. And like they say, represent.
All right. All right. Well, listen, man. We'll talk again soon, right? I got to get ready to travel this weekend, so you have a good one and take care. And I'll talk to you soon. All right.
And remember, you are always in my thoughts and prayers.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. Take care.